Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head down to Belgium once again for the first time in what feels like a good long while. So we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a couple of times before. This is going to be review number 4 from these guys, but apparently it's my first since August of 2019. So about 2.5 years actually since we've had a beer from them, which is quite surprising because this brewery is one of my favourite Belgian breweries, if not the favourite, and they also epitomise probably my favourite style of Belgian beer actually. So yeah, this one is a little bit of a special beer from them as well, so I have to say I'm very curious to see how this one turns out. So hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to go to Roeselare, which is in the kind of southwestern part of Belgium, if you like, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Brouwerij Rodenbach. So this particular beer is called Red Tripel. It comes in at 8.2% ABV, and it is their 200th anniversary beer. So yeah, this one should be quite interesting. This is a blend of a young beer, which in this case is a Belgian triple, and a 2-year-old fodder-aged Flanders Red Ale. So yeah, that of course is the style that Rodenbach are very famous for. And when I saw that this beer was coming through Systembolaget here in Sweden, I thought, you know, I have to get this one. To review it, and this is also my 3200th review, so kind of cool to do this for that one and also celebrate Rodenbach's 200th anniversary, which was last year in 2021. So yeah, really looking forward to this, and I hope you guys enjoy my take on it, as I said. So let's crack on and see how we go. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Brouwerij Rodenbach before, and we will no doubt add more to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Belgian beers that I've reviewed for you, and that's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, but not as often as I would like. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Brouwerij Rodenbach once again. So Brouwerij Rodenbach, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Roeselare, which is in West Flanders, or West-Vleteren I guess we could say, in the western part of Belgium. You'll find it located in the middle of Lille, which is a bit to the south in France, and then Bruges, which is a bit to the north, and that of course is in Belgium as well. But the brewery was founded back in 1821 by the 4 Rodenbach brothers. This is Pedro, Alexander, Ferdinand and Constantine, and the brothers agreed to work as partners for 15 years, and at the end of this period it was Pedro and his wife Regina who took over the running of the brewery. So in 1864 the brewery was taken over by their son Edward, and it saw considerable growth under his guidance. Edward's son Eugene in turn took over the brewery in 1878, and he had actually been to England to learn how to age and blend beers, and this is what Rodenbach of course went on to become famous for. So Eugene unfortunately produced no male heirs, and thus the company became a limited liability corporation, with the majority of the shares remaining in the hands of the Rodenbach family up until 1998, and the company was bought at this point by the Pam Brewery Group, who also brew the Boon beers, which are obviously another one of the famous Belgian lambic breweries. But this company is in turn owned by Swinkels Family Brewers, which was previously known as the Bavaria Group. But today, this brewery produces in excess of 180,000 hectolitres of beer per year, and they are known, of course, for the Flanders Red style. So yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Brouwerij Rodenbach. The first beer I ever tried from these guys was back in 2018, and that was the Vintage, which is the gold label one, and I have to say that's one of my favourite reviews that I've ever filmed actually. I really seriously enjoyed that one actually, and that was when Rodenbach really kind of got onto my radar. After that I filmed the Grand Cru, which was a little 330ml bottle, and then the most recent one was the Caractère Rouge, which that was the August 2019 one that we did actually. So yeah, I can't believe it's been about 2 years actually, more than 2 years since we've reviewed a Rodenbach beer here on the channel. It's just crazy to think, you know, how many beers we've actually reviewed on here. But yeah, as I say, this brewery, one of the ones that really epitomise the Flanders Red style, which is a style that I highly recommend you try if you get the chance. Beautiful, beautiful beers, I have to say. But yeah, as I said, that's everything I can tell you about Brouwerij Rodenbach for the moment. If you want to learn more about this brewery, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can, of course, check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that Rodenbach do. But yeah, it tends to be the case that they release a new vintage every year because obviously their Flanders Red Ales are you know, fodder aged, barrel aged, whatever you want to call them. A fodder is basically a huge big barrel. So yeah, let's crack on with this then and have a look at the beer itself. So as I mentioned to you, this beer was released through Systembolaget here in Sweden. I believe I got this one actually in December, so this has been sitting in the fridge for about a month, about 6-7 weeks, something like that, and I paid 140 Swedish kroner for it. So that translates to roughly 14 euros when you consider that this is a big 750ml bomber, if you can call it that. I think that's pretty good value, and I'm sure I've spoken to a couple of guys down in Belgium actually, and it seems that the prices we get the Belgian beers here for, including the lambics and things like that, the price that we get them up here in Sweden for is actually only €1 or so more than what they would pay down in Belgium. So it goes to show you the Systembolaget prices are actually fairly decent. So yeah, 14 euros for a big 8.2% half triple, half Flanders Red Ale, I guess, is pretty damn good. So yeah, this is cool. And like I said to you, this beer, it was brewed to, or blended, whatever, to celebrate 200 years of Rodenbach, which was in 2021. Although we're now in 2022, so I don't know if we can really still celebrate that. But yeah, when I saw that this one was coming through Systembolaget, I had to have this because, as I say, one of my favourite Belgian breweries, and they epitomise one of my favourite styles of Belgian beer. I love Belgian blondes, triples, quadruples, and the Flanders Reds. Those are probably my favourite Belgian styles, of course. But yeah, it tells you a little bit about this beer on the back here. So it says Rodenbach Red Tripel is our 200th anniversary beer, created by blending a Belgian triple with a Flemish red brown ale that is matured for 2 years in 4,000 gallon, 180 hectolitre oak casks. So the slightly sour fresh taste typical for Rodenbach creates a refreshingly complex and easily drinkable triple. The malty, fruity and wood aged character of the beer comes to life in your glass, a true indulgence for all your senses. So yeah, it's pretty nice. But yeah, I think I'll need to keep this bottle for display actually, because you don't often get 200th anniversary beers, so this one will most definitely be getting kept. You can see it's got one of these sort of corky tops on it, so I'm going to have to kind of unwind that, but hopefully this beer behaves itself and we don't need to pause the camera or whatever to get the thing open. So yeah, the Rodenbach beers normally behave themselves, we should say, but yeah, we can twist this, I think. I'm reviewing this one actually, my friend is going to come over in about an hour or so, so I'm reviewing this one before he appears, and we'll drink the rest of it together after this. So yeah, looking forward to this. But as you can see, nice bit of smoke on the opening, and we'll get some of this out and into the glass. There we go. This is going to be pretty awesome. Just look at that. I'll be drunk by the time he gets here, I'm sure. There we go. That'll do for the moment, I think. There we are. Yes. So, this is interesting. So before the head kind of starts to dissipate on this one, as you can see, this beer has poured with a lovely just under one finger, frothy, I would say kind of like fawn, very light beige colour head. You can see that there. It looks absolutely beautiful. You can see slightly bigger bubbles towards the bottom, then a lovely kind of foamy head just sitting on top of that. That head is going to hang about for quite a wee while actually, and that's, I wonder if that's due to the triple element. I can't remember how much head we actually had on the you know, the vintage, the Grand Cru or the Caractère Rouge, but yeah, this beer Looks very, very nice. If we shine the light through this one, it's actually, it's kind of like a sort of coppery mahogany colour, which is interesting, but it does definitely have it really does have a kind of ruby sort of hue to it at the same time. So yeah, it's a kind of mix of a mahogany coppery type colour, but definitely a definite ruby hue to this one. When it's called a Flanders Red Ale, you would expect this, absolutely. But yeah, there's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward bottom of the head there. If I wipe away the condensation on the glass, this beer is pretty much crystal clear actually. So that is pretty cool, I have to say. So on the, I'm surprised, yeah, I remember these beers being clear, but it always surprises me the level of clarity you get from these things when you consider that they are all barrel aged and so on, and blended of course in this case too. But yeah, as I say, beautiful looking beer. Just look at the colour of that. It's absolutely lovely. Awesome. So, yeah, I don't think we really need to say anything more about the appearance of this one. As I say, this one, I think it's fair to say this one has a little bit more of that kind of coppery, mahogany sort of edge to it because of the triple element that's in there. But it looks very good actually. It does look very, very nice. So on the, I think we can just move on to the aroma then. I don't think we've got anything else we really need to say about the appearance of this. So let's have a wee look at the aroma. You can see the head has faded away now, and you've just got a nice kind of thicker foamy ring around the edge and a thinner foamy layer sitting on top. So let's look at this then. Let's look at the aroma. Yeah. Aroma-wise, this one is really nice actually. It's kind of interesting. It is interesting. It's actually quite a complex aroma that you get out of this. And as I've said before, you know, when it comes to sour beers, I don't think sour beers, for example, in some cases, like the modern sour beers, the Berliner Weisses and the Goses and all these kind of things, quite often they don't have the really complex aromas that you'll get from like a Flanders Red or some of the lambic beers. But you can really see that in here. This one's even more complex because it's got it's got a Flanders Red and it's got a triple in it. But it smells really nice, this one. Yeah, just thinking where to start with this beer. The first impression of it is to me it smells very, very woody, and it's actually got a good little bit of a grainy element to it as well, which is interesting. But then on top of that, you've got these kind of soft, candied, sour red fruits. So yeah, very curious. So yeah, let's just break this one down then and describe it as we go. So the backbone of this beer is undoubtedly the smooth kind of oaky character. I forgot my sound on there was on. Let's turn that off. So as I say, the backbone of this one is that smooth, oaky, woody character. Absolutely. You do get a wee tiny hint of vanilla out of this one. But yeah, you can really smell the big smoothness of the oak. Yeah, it's a lovely, lovely smelling backbone to this one. That's one thing I always loved about the Flanders Red, which you just got that smooth, oaky vanilla type quality out of them. One thing that's always interesting to consider too, when you think about how often, you know, bourbon barrel aging and so on is used these days, you know, a lot of these, when you think about the oak they use for those casks, it's American oak compared to European oak, which is a completely different species of tree. But yeah, the woody backbone of this is really nice. On top of that, I actually do get a little bit of breadiness in this beer. There is a wee bit of a kind of bread crusty note for sure, like a sort of white bready bread crust. And I do even get wee hints of white bread as well sitting on top of the wood. And all of these kind of notes are coming together. But certainly on top of this, you start to smell like quite a bright brown sugar. And it's really interesting how this goes together, because the brown sugars that you normally get in a Flanders Red are quite, you know, it's a sort of more oily, caramelly kind of character. But in this case, you really have those bright brown sugars that you associate with the triple a bit more, but you also have that slightly more oily one. So yeah, I'm getting quite a bit of biscuit, like a McVitie's digestive biscuit. Yeah, I'm getting a bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuit for sure. And then, yeah, there is a little bit of an almost butterscotchy butter candy, Werther's Original type thing coming out of this one. So yeah, definitely getting a wee bit of that in here. And then, yeah, you get a wee bit of the more kind of oily brown sugar in there as well, which you expect of the Flanders Red. So you can really see the triple and the Flanders Red kind of combining in the malty base of this beer. I'm trying to see if I'm getting some kind of yeastiness out of it. I think at the back of the nose, I certainly get a wee bit of that kind of doughy, bready, yeasty thing that you always get from, you know, the blondes, the doubles, the triples, the quadruples. Although obviously it's slightly different between the brown styles and the blonde styles, if we can say that. So yeah, this one you can definitely smell a wee bit of that kind of doughy, yeasty kind of character coming out of this one as well, which isn't something you would normally associate with the Flanders Red right enough. So yeah, the malty backbone of this one's quite interesting. As I say, I reckon that the triple dominates the malty side of the beer, and it also gives you that little bit of yeastiness in there. So it's like it has a Flanders Red backbone, but then the triple really dominates the kind of malty side of the aroma with just a little bit of the brown sugar contribution from the Flanders Red. Let's look at the hoppy side of the beer. Do we get anything from the hops? I actually do get a little bit. I do get a little bit of there's a little touch of a smooth earthiness in this one, a wee bit of herbal character, but I do actually get a little bit of grassiness and also a little bit of a floral character as well. So I do like how this one, I really do like how this one goes about its business. Yeah. The way the thing is with these, one thing you always have to be careful with sour beers when you think about it is that a lot of the time these beers use the sour beers some of them don't tend to use hops at all. Some of them will use older hops, and the reason they do that is that so that the bitterness of the hop doesn't take away from the sour side of the beer. But with this one, you definitely get a bit of floral aromaticity and bright grassiness out of the beer. I would suspect that that is mainly from the triple side, because when you've been aging a Flanders Red for 2 years, you know that most of the hoppy character is going to drop out. But at the same time, when you put the hops in, it adds to the overall complexity of the beer. So I'm an advocate of putting hops into these sour beers, especially the barrel aged ones. So yeah, the green component of this beer is quite interesting. But let's focus on the fruity side of the beer and the kind of sourness, if you like. So yeah, I mean, I always find that the fruity character in these beers is quite interesting. So when you smell, if you focus on the kind of front of your nose, you can really smell, you get the woodiness, the oaky character really comes out very smoothly, and it's on top of that you start to get the fruity notes. So for me, when you take the aroma in, like quite deeply like this, you can really smell, it has a little bit of that kind of cherryish type quality to it, a little bit of the kind of sour cherry. But you've also got some kind of more candied fruits in there. Like there's a wee bit of a kind of more oily candied fig, you know, a bit of strawberry. I don't know if I'd go as far as saying raspberry, to be honest with you. But yeah, the tartness of this beer, I can't really think back to 2019 to tell you what I thought of the Grand Cru or the Caractère Rouge, but yeah, this one definitely has a wee bit. It definitely has a wee bit of tartness, especially when you take the aroma in quite deeply. But otherwise, it's you know, it's quite. It really is quite kind of smooth and oily in its fruit character. You get a wee bit of tartness in there, but otherwise it's quite smooth and oily in its fruity notes. So yeah, the way that this beer goes about its business, I think, is very, very nice actually. So yeah, I think that covers everything we really need to say about the aroma of this beer. So we can move on and have a look at the taste of it. So yeah, this one is the Red Tripel. The 200th anniversary beer, coming in at 8.2% ABV, a blend of a new young triple with a 2-year-old fodder, barrel aged, whatever, Flanders Red Ale from Brouwerij Rodenbach in Roeselare in Belgium. So yeah, let's get stuck into this one. Yeah, really cool to do this review for you, and thank you for all the support over the 3,200 reviews that we've done. So the 200th anniversary of Rodenbach, my 3,200th review here on the channel. Slàinte, skål, cheers. That's interesting. it is more, first impression of it is that it's like a more malty, woody version of the Rodenbach that we've had before. This is certainly very different from the other beers that we've had in the past from them. The other ones have always been, very, very woody, smooth, and kind of red fruity. This one really has a little bit more dryness to the wood. There's a lot more kind of biscuity brown sugar, and it's just it really is quite different. This one, it's really the first impression that comes to my mind is that it's woody. It really is a very, very kind of dry, woody and biscuity beer. This, but I like it. I like this one. This will be a nice sipper for the evening actually. So yeah, thumbs up to Rodenbach for this. This is definitely an interesting concoction. I would love to see them try at some point. I'm curious as to why they would choose a triple actually, rather than say a quadruple. I would have thought that the darker brown sugary qualities would have complemented the Flanders Red a little bit more. So yeah, it's an interesting choice when I think about that actually. So yeah, I do wonder what their motivation was behind choosing the triple rather than the quadruple. But it works. It does work actually. But I will say, if you're expecting like just something that's similar to the other Rodenbach beers, this one really isn't that. So be aware before you shell out for this one. But it is a solid beer. So thumbs up to Rodenbach. Interesting stuff. So let's go through it and break it down as we always do. It's got a lovely mouthfeel to it as well actually. Very, very smooth, but we'll come back to that later. So let's focus on the middle and the back third of the palate then. So middle third of your palate, and I guess some of this will apply to the back third of the palate too. The base of that back third of your palate, you can feel that lovely smooth oaky character there just forming the backbone of the beer. Toward the back of that middle third of your palate, you've got a wee bit more of you get a little bit more of that kind of dry oaky character, but then as you move further forward it kind of smoothens out and sweetens up. But this is a characteristic I've spoken about on the channel before. The drier, more bitter flavours come out on the back of your palate, the sweeter flavours come out further forward. So yeah, middle third of your palate, a little bit of dry oak, and it gradually just mellows out to be a little bit more of a smooth oak. But toward the front of that middle third of your palate, that's when you get you start to get a little bit of the vanilla flavour out of this one. So yeah, I really like how that goes together. Yeah, I think that works. I do think that works really, really nicely. On top of that as well, you start to get this beer. It is actually very similar to what I was expecting it would be from the aroma. This is one of the ones that really translates well between aroma and flavour. So on top of the woody character, you really start to get, you can feel the triple coming out of this one. So you get a little bit of a kind of bread crusty note, I think, on top of that. Then you can feel a kind of smooth, slightly doughy, white bready characters. Obviously that is the triple side of the beer. On top of that layer, you get the kind of brown sugary side of the triple coming out. And this beer, you will notice it very much has that kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type flavour coming out of it. And again, I really like that. So, on the brown sugary side of things then, on top of the bread, it feels like you've got a little bit of a kind of biscuity, like a little bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuity layer to this one. Then as you move, it's like a circle sitting in the middle third of your palate, so you've got that McVitie's digestive biscuity layer. As you move further in from that, it starts to become a little bit more of a kind of butterscotchy, butter candy type thing. So yeah, I think it's really nice how that goes together, because you can feel it. It really, the further you go into the flavour with this beer, the more it kind of mellows out. And I think the malty, as I said, the malty side of this beer is really dominated by the triple, absolutely. But in the middle of your palate, there's like a little circle right in the dead centre of your tongue. And that's where you start to get a wee bit of the Flanders red brown sugar coming out of the beer. Like you can feel in the dead centre of your palate, it does give you a little bit of a more kind of straight up oily caramel. So if we start from the dead centre of the palate, there's oily caramel. As you move further out from that, it becomes a little bit more like a Werther's Original, butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing. And then you can feel that just as you push out towards the extremities of that middle third of your palate, it really is a little bit more like a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing that you get out of this. So this is a very nice beer in that sense. So it gets a thumbs up from me. The malty side of this one is quite nice, and I would say that it's growing on me. As I say though, I really do wonder if Rodenbach had chosen a quadruple as the young beer as opposed to a triple. I think this would have worked even better, actually. I think the quadruple might have been a little bit more suited to the Flanders Red for a blend than a triple would. But this is interesting. I mean, it's an experiment. It is an experiment, actually, and that's what you like. It's always really cool to see really old breweries like this doing something a wee bit different. So yeah. And you hear the name, you hear a beer from one of your favourite breweries called Red Tripel. You can't really resist that, especially 200th anniversary. But yeah, the other thing I would say about this beer is that the further you go into the aftertaste, you can feel some of the drier woody characters pushing their way out of this one. But yeah, it goes together really well. So on the back third of the palate then, you can feel in that border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of a kind of bread crusty build up there. Then the base of that back third of your palate is again, you can feel the slightly drier woody characters under there. And at the back of the palate, remember, it does get even more dry. On top of that, you've got the bready layer. You've got that white sort of bready kind of thing there. But again, this feels a little bit more kind of grainy, if you like. It's got a wee bit of bread crust, particularly towards the kind of bottom of that layer. Then on top of that, I do get a wee bit of the biscuity character, and then you can feel a wee bit of the kind of triple yeasty note sitting on top of that. So the triple yeast, if you like, feels a little bit more like a slightly more dense, doughy, bready sort of thing. So yeah, you can feel that definitely on the back third of the palate. And on the back third of your palate, of course, the flavour of the beer is taller, so you can feel that. It feels the yeast sitting on top of everything makes the beer feel taller on the back third of your palate. Then as you come kind of further forward, the flavour just condenses down a little bit, a wee bit, and squashes together a little bit more, and the flavours feel a wee bit more condensed, if you like. But yeah, I think that covers everything about the malty and yeasty side of the beer. Let's focus on the hoppy, fruity and sour side of it. So yeah, I think the beer, compared to what I was thinking from the aroma, it doesn't actually have that much of a hoppy character. I mean, in the back corners of the palate, yeah, you can feel a little bit of a smooth but dry earthiness. As you go further forward, it's a little touch herbal, but then as you push toward the kind of front corners of the palate, it's got a little bit more of it does have a little bit more of that kind of floral aromatic sort of thing to it. So yeah, I really like how this how that goes together. But the hops, of course, the hoppy side of this beer will be coming from the triple, and I would guess when they're blending it with a sour, they might brew it with a little bit less hop than they would normally. Not that the triple is inherently a hoppy type of beer, but yeah, they probably have toned down the hops a little bit so that it blends better. I think it will very much be a triple that is engineered to go with the Flanders Red that they've brewed for this. But round the front curve of the palate with this one, you do get a little bit of lighter grassiness there, and I'd say that that's the most prominent part of the hoppy side of the beer, along with the herbal character, actually. So that is worth bearing in mind. I do like how all of this beer goes together, but yeah, the hops are not the most prominent part of the beer. But let's focus on the front third of your palate and the fruity and sour side of the beer. So yeah. So, on the On the fruity side of things then, that front third of your palate, the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a little bit of a bready build up there again, a bit of a bread crust. Then the base of that, front third of your palate is a little bit more kind of woody and bready again. So yeah, you get a really nice kind of smooth, woody character there. Oaky character just forming the base of the front third of the palate, then a wee bit of breadiness behind it. And then sitting on top of that, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. And for me, this one's really interesting because at the back of that front third of your palate, you do actually get a little bit of that sort of dried apricot kind of sultana type quality from the triple. And I would maybe say that there could be a little bit of an oily pear as you move further forward on the front third of your palate. It does actually become a little bit peary. So yeah, a lot of the fruity character in this one is coming from the triple, but initially that's what comes in the aftertaste. I should say that. But initially, the flavor, the fruit flavor, is more associated with the Flanders Red actually. So when you take the beer in, you'll feel on the front of the palate. That's when you get the kind of tartness out of it. So when you take it in, it's got a wee bit of that. It's got a very slightly kind of cherry flavour to it initially. Yeah, definitely. It's got a little bit of that cherry flavour to it, maybe even a little hint of a kind of tart raspberry, but then it starts to sort of dry out, and that's when you get the kind of more candied, dried strawberry type flavours out of it. And then at this point, you've seen how long it was since I took a sip. At this point, it really starts to transition to like the sultana, the apricot, and these kind of dried flavours, if you like. So yeah, the way that goes together, I think works really well. So it gets a thumbs up from me in that sense. The fruity side of this beer is quite interesting. Initially it's like a Flanders Red, but then it really becomes more of a triple the further you go into the aftertaste actually. And I would say the sour side of this beer is quite muted. It's not as, Rodenbach, it's not going to, it's not, they were never overly puckering beers. The sourness that you used to get in the regular Rodenbachs that you still do is very nice, but this I don't think is as sour as the regular ones. So it's got a wee bit of tartness in the beginning, but it fades very fast and it gives you a more dry red fruity character. Then you get the more triple type fruity notes out of this beer. But yeah, this is a really interesting one, and it certainly made me think a little bit for sure. So yeah, I don't think we need to say any more about the flavour of this beer. I think we've described everything. So you've got a nice kind of oily, you do have a nice kind of oily, fruity character to this one for sure. But yeah, let's round off the review with a look at the mouthfeel then. So for me, I would say that this beer is pushing towards the kind of top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth. The mouthfeel overall does have a slight oily character to it, which I very much like. So yeah, smooth carbonation, a little bit of an oily character to it. And yeah, the way that everything goes together in that, from that sense, is very, very nice. It's like a mix of the triple and the Flanders Red mouthfeel. In terms of hoppy bitterness, I think this is going to be very low, like 10 IBUs, something like that, if that. So yeah, very, very low IBU beer, this one. The malt base, as we said, has a little bit of dryness to it, but a bit of smoothness and a bit of a kind of smooth sweetness in the fruity side of the beer. As we've said, it's a little bit tart in the beginning. It does have a wee bit of a tart, oily character, red fruity. Then it really transitions to become more of a kind of dry, fruity, triple fruity character the further into the aftertaste that you go. So I think this beer is one, it really shows the Flanders Red in the beginning when you take the beer in, but it really evolves to become a little bit more of a triple the further into the aftertaste that you go. I think that's a fair assessment of this one. So yeah, a really very, very interesting beer, an interesting experiment for sure from Rodenbach. But yeah, I think we can round off this review there. So thumbs up to Rodenbach for doing something a bit different, but I do think this beer could have worked even better if they'd used the quadruple as the young blend beer. But that's for another day. So Yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Brouwerij Rodenbach as well, and we will see about reviewing another beer from these guys at some point soon. I do need to try the Alexander, actually, and I believe I did make a mistake earlier in the video. I said that West Flanders was West-Vleteren. No, it's West-Vlaanderen. So yeah, I made a mistake in this video, so apologies for that. But check out my social media, check out their social media, and I will see you guys in the next one. This was the Red Tripel, the 200th anniversary beer, a blend of a young triple and a 2-year-old Flanders Red Ale from Brouwerij Rodenbach in Roeselare in West-Vlaanderen in the southwest of Belgium. Until the next time, slange, skål, cheers, and thank you again for all your support over the 3,200 videos we've done so far, and happy 200th anniversary to Rodenbach. Cheers just now.